Chapter 24. Sierra woke to the light of sunrise pouring into the trunk as whoever had kidnapped her pulled it open. While she still couldn't see anything but light from behind the blindfold, she could feel the cold wind whipping around her and smell the salty scent of the sea. They weren't in Dublin anymore, and if they had been driving all night as Sierra suspected, they could be in Northern Ireland by now. The kidnapper grabbed her arm roughly, pulling her from the trunk. Sierra opened her mouth to start screaming.
Don't bother. No one will hear you.
His harsh voice cut through her thoughts. But Sierra decided she didn't want to take the chance and screamed anyway. It didn't last long before some kind of cloth was shoved in her mouth, effectively choking her.
You brought this on yourself.
The kidnapper grumbled as he began to pull Sierra through the grass. Although she couldn't see much from behind her blindfold, Sierra began cataloging anything she could sense to use later when she escaped. There was no way this was the end for her. She wouldn't allow it to be. The kidnapper was pulling Sierra so roughly her legs began to tangle in the long grass they were walking through, and Sierra stumbled a bit. This didn't deter her captor, as he only began to pull her more roughly, resulting in him practically dragging Sierra. Using this to her advantage, Sierra put her bound hands along the ground to try to feel her surroundings. Unfortunately, the grass was sharper than anticipated, and Sierra soon felt the sharp sting of her hands being sliced open by the tiny blades. Trying to hiss in pain but unable to do so with the gag in her mouth, Sierra ended up coughing instead, causing her kidnapper to come to a stop. At least, she assumed that was what was going on, until the air around her changed. At first, Sierra thought she was being pulled through a clear waterfall, but she realized the sensation she was feeling wasn't wet, rather more of a vacuum. But then, as suddenly as the sensation started, it stopped, and the air around Sierra felt heavy, warm, and moist. 3 things she knew were not characteristic of the air in Dublin. That's when the thought finally hit her. She had been brought to She, or the hills, as Aoden described it. Unless there was another secret world that she hadn't been told about, in which case she was truly screwed. Sierra didn't have much time to evaluate what was around her before she was roughly shoved onto something made of wood, the impact jarring as her entire body came into contact with it. Sierra grimaced, but couldn't say anything thanks to the gag. At least, she thought, Aoden can come in here and find me. She just hoped he figured it out quickly, and she had no idea of the strange man's intentions. The wood beneath her began to move, and Sierra figured she had been thrown in some sort of wooden cart or wagon. Although the situation wasn't ideal, and Sierra was scared out of her wits, she couldn't help but wish she wasn't wearing a blindfold so she could at least see the world into which she had been taken so forcefully. The ride continued for what felt like days, but was probably only an hour or 2, if that. Sierra's shoulder was pressed uncomfortably into the wood, and her neck ached from sleeping in a trunk the night before. Trying to find something to pass the time and keep her mind off the pain, Sierra began running through the homework assignment she had been planning to complete that weekend. It wasn't all that interesting, and she knew it likely wouldn't matter anymore since she doubted she was leaving here alive. But at least it temporarily lessened the pain and gave her something to focus on. The cart finally rolled to a stop, and just as roughly as she was tossed in, Sierra was pulled to a standing position, though her kidnapper remained silent. She almost wished she hadn't screamed now, so she could at least ask him what was going on. Sierra's feet stumbled over the uneven ground, the man keeping up his brisk pace whether her feet were on the ground or not. When the dirt beneath her feet became cold, smooth stone, Sierra knew they had entered some kind of structure.
Oh, what have we here?
A new voice that wasn't that of her kidnapper reached Sierra's ears.
Sir, I believe I found the girl to break the curse.
Her kidnapper spoke up from just behind Sierra. She really wished he would remove her blindfold so she could see who she was talking to.
You have now, have you?
The second voice questioned.
Well, remove her blindfold so I can see her face.
Before she could register what was happening, her blindfold was removed, causing a bright light to stream into her eyes. As much as she wanted to look around, Sierra was forced to close her eyes because of the brightness. After a few moments, she blinked, trying to allow her eyes to adjust. A man stood in front of her, but he was still blurry as she attempted to focus.
Ah, yes. This is the woman my son spoke about.
At the word son, Sierra's ears perked up, and she blinked furiously until she could finally see the form standing in front of her. The man was well dressed, in the kind of suit Sierra expected to see in a fairy tale, but that wasn't what caught her eye. Rather, it was his pointed ears, wide jaw, and green eyes, reminiscent of someone else she was familiar with. Hayden.